Hi there, everyone. Welcome to The Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's June 21st. When is the best time to divide, to prune, to transplant? In general, the answer I most often give is that the best time to do anything is when you're standing there with a shovel or a knife or a spade in your hand. We are all so busy, and our gardens can get away from us. Our good intentions of getting to things at a later date can evaporate faster than water on a hot July day. Thus the saying, there's no time like the present. So if you're in your garden and you have helpers, or you just have the right frame of mind to tackle that bigger project, to move that plant or split that rhubarb, I say go for it. Here's today's brevities. It's the birthday of Abraham Mignon, who was born on this day in 1640. Mignon was a Dutch Golden Age painter, and he created vibrant paintings of fruit, birds, and his specialty of flowers. When Mignon was just 9 years old, he was placed under the care of Jacob Merrill, a still life painter and art dealer. Mignon became his apprentice. Merrill was impressed with Mignon, and he asked him to instruct his stepdaughter, Maria Sibylla Marion. Maria went on to become arguably the best botanical illustrator of all time. Meanwhile, Mignon died before his 40th birthday. And it was on this day in 1834 that the American inventor and businessman Cyrus McCormick patented the reaping machine. McCormick's thresher changed agriculture forever, replacing the manual cutting of crops, which is why he's considered the father of modern agriculture. McCormick's company would go on to become the International Harvester Company. McCormick was a devout Christian. He made a fortune from his reaper, and much of his wealth went to charity. It was Cyrus McCormick who said, "There's a special place in God's kingdom for businessmen who put their money where their mouth is." In 1940, the 3-cent postage stamp commemorated McCormick, and today the original McCormick farm is owned by Virginia Tech. McCormick came up with all of these wonderful witticisms about business. Here's a fun one. Trying to do business without advertising is like winking at a pretty girl through a pair of green goggles. You may know what you're doing, but no one else does. And it was on this day in 1872 that the famous landscape architect Frederick Olmste was nominated in absentia as Vice President of the United States. Banker James McCann and philanthropist Robert Minturn, who was instrumental in the creation of New York's Central Park, proposed a ticket featuring Olmste as vice president, and as president, William Groesbeck, a former United States representative from Ohio. The party had dubbed itself the National American Democratic Republicans. When Olmste heard the news, he immediately quashed his own nomination, and he posted a rebuttal in the New York Post that said, "My name was used without my knowledge in the resolutions of the gentlemen who met on Friday at the Fifth Avenue Hotel." Privately, Olmste was pleased by the support. It was one more indication of the esteemed public figure that Olmste had become. And today is officially the first day of summer. It's the longest day of the year, and it always marks the beginning of summer in the Northern Hemisphere. It's also known as the summer solstice. A solstice happens when the sun's zenith is at its furthest point from the equator. Solstice has Latin origins and means sun stopping. In today's Unearthed Words, here are some quotes from Donald Culross Peattie, who was born on this day in Chicago in 1898. Peattie was regarded as the most read nature writer in America during his time. What is a weed? I have heard it said that there are 60 definitions. For me, a weed is a plant out of place. I have often started off on a walk in the state called mad, in the sense of sore-headed or mad with tedium or confusion. I have set forth dull, null, and even thoroughly discouraged. But I never came back in such a frame of mind, and I never met a human being whose humor was not the better for a walk. All the great naturalists have been habitual walkers, for no laboratory, no book, no car, train, or plane takes the place of honest footwork for this calling, be it amateurs or professionals. And finally, as the brain of man is the speck of dust in the universe that thinks, so the leaves, the fern, and the needled pine, and the latticed frond, and the seaweed ribbon perceive the light in a fundamental and constructive sense. Their leaves see the light as my eyes can never do. They impound its stellar energy, and with that force, they make life out of the elements. Today's book recommendation is Flowering Earth by Donald Culross Peattie. The Hartford Times said this about Peattie's masterpiece. Here is Mr. Peattie at his superb best. He makes the story of botany and its pursuit as fascinating to the reader as it is to him, and the reading of it a delight. Peattie's book was first published in 1939. The book is part natural history, part biography, and part philosophical reflection. Peattie's voice is warm and lyrical, the voice of a poet. For today's garden chore, it's another Photo Friday in the garden. June 21st is National Selfie Day. So today, take pictures of yourself in the garden. I did this with my student gardeners a few weeks ago, and I have all of these adorable pictures of them peeking out from behind blossoms and foliage in the garden. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. On this day in 1843, the New England farmer published a simple post on weeding. Here's what it said. The checking of weeds and the stirring of the soil must be most perseveringly and faithfully performed if you expect to obtain good crops, and no weed should be suffered to mature before being destroyed. 1 year's seeding, says the old proverb, makes 7 years weeding. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org, and be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and of course, Facebook. While you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for these 3 words, Daily Gardener Community. The group will pop right up, and then request to join. Finally, I want to thank my team at Podfly Productions, where my fabulous editor is Eric Begay. Have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.